Hello everyone. This lecture is on litigation and sonography. As you all know, there has been a recent uh, exponential increase in cases of medical litigation. We will see why and how to tackle this litigation with concern to sonography. Now, once litigation occurs, it has to be managed or it can be prevented. So, these are the two broad parts to be dealt with regarding this topic of litigation in medicine. So, coming to management of occasion where you are faced with litigation regarding your practice, you can explain your side of argument, your side of the practice to the patient to make him or her understand the various aspects of litigation, the practice and litigation. And then make arrangements to face a mob or political goons to prevent a catastrophic situation. Be prepared for that. It may not occur, but be prepared. Next is you have to hire a lawyer, particularly an expert in medical legal practice if available, and prepare medical references and points of rebuttal, because the particular lawyer may not be conversant with these points. So it becomes your prerogative to prepare all this so that you don't lose the case, and also get expert opinions from experts of your field so that the counterpoints can be raised and the expert opinions are favoring your position. Now, recently there was a case where a person who has done an second trimester scan was pulled up for in litigation for missing a limb anomaly, and we will see and awarded the couple was awarded a huge sum of 1.4 crores as compensation, and we'll see some details of that case before we go to the main topic. Now here, regarding how the forum approached this case is, they said ordinary competent men exercising maybe one or more perfectly proper standards, and if he conforms with one of these proper standards, then he is not negligent. This is the general principle, and so the forum or the courts look for the standard of care. So if one conforms to the standard of care, then it is not negligence. So the defense, what does it say? The defendant could establish that he did not owe the plaintiff, that is the patient, a duty of care under the law, or that the injury did not fall within the scope of the duty owed. So this is what is to be proved in defense. So for this you have to establish that you complied with the standard of care. So here the standard of care regarding the anomaly scan is or any other scan is guidelines. So this particular doctor has put forth a strong defense, first using the detection rate of anomalies, and then factors which affect the detection rate, like the greater BMI and the level of scan the person has done, and he has also taken two expert opinions which were in his favor, and the forum itself took an expert opinion from the medical board of All India Institute of Medical Sciences, which also opined in favor of the person who performed the scan. So in spite of that, the forum concluded that the doctor is liable for negligence, and based on the principle of res ipsa loquitur. We will see that later. So that is about the case of missing an anomaly. And then this is another case of a theatre infection which was contested, and you see the verdict which was in the higher court, but you see here the conclusion of the higher court. Even after the forum came to a conclusion that the infection is not due to deficiency on the part of opposite parties, but still passed the impugned order directing the opposite parties to pay compensation to the complainant. So in spite of concluding that there was no negligence, but still offered a compensation. So these two cases show are the examples and show that the general mood is unfavorable towards doctors. So in that situation, so one is having pulled up for a litigation, you face it, manage it. But the best way is to prevent. So prevention is the best solution. So prevention is always better, because once litigation is initiated, it consumes your precious time in preparing the rebuttals, hiring a lawyer, everything. And it also involves a lot of psychological stress depending on your makeup, and interferes with your practice in peace, both in with psychological and in time. And it also involves a cost, because you have to pay the lawyer. And in spite of all this, the risk of verdict, there is always a risk of verdict going against you, as shown in the two examples I put forth, because the general mood is not favorable towards doctors. And above all this, you have to be able to practice in peace first, so that you earn your living to face all these problems. So better one is prevention. So prevention, we will see what is medical negligence. Negligence means failure to act in maybe one or more perfectly proper standard. So the essential is the standard of care. If one conforms to with one of the proper standards, then he is not negligent. This is understood. But what is proper standard regarding the sonography? It is the guidelines. Fortunately, we have guidelines for all the types of scans, particularly ultrasound. So first step is you have to follow diligently guidelines and protocols. But coming to our country, there are resources are diverse in our country. Now in the first example of missed anomaly, the doctor has specifically said he has not seen the fetal parts. So see, he has chosen not to see the fetal parts, and so he is definitely not negligent of missing an anomaly. But still the forum has concluded against him. So in that situation, then there should be varying, differing levels of guidelines put forth by professional associations. This is a very worthwhile solution, but it is not forthcoming. So in that case, it's better thing is to prevent the occurrence of a litigation. So regarding guidelines and protocols regarding mid-trimester anomaly scan, there is a course, foundation course of second trimester anomaly scan on sonoshare.in. Now again, coming to the guidelines, they describe the minimum. It is always minimalistic and broad, and some situations it may be inadequate. As explained by this lecture on image to diagnosis, fetal medicine I, this case illustrates a case of litigation where, in spite of documenting the eyes, there was an issue postnatally. So the doctor was pulled up for court, which is explained in this scenario in image to diagnosis. Those interested may listen to this. So the guidelines describe the basic minimum to be done, but they do not elaborate on the best planes to get regarding various structures and the technique to obtain that plane. This is all not described in the guidelines. That is left to the performer to learn, and also does not describe the checklist in detail, etc. So coming to the how to avoid the litigation, you have to follow the guidelines, and you must also take the correct plane for that particular structure, and how to the technique, you should know how to take that correct plane, and in each plane you should know the checklist for each section. So all these are explained in detail in this foundation course on second trimester anomaly scan on sonoshare.in. Now next is basic principles of sonography. Now this is a very important topic and very important technical aspect to understand, so that it can be applied, because the basic principles based on propagation of ultrasound causes certain signs and artifacts which you have to be aware. Like one salient example I can tell here is the angle of incidence. So angle of incidence is a basic principle of ultrasound which affects each and every region of sonography. So it should be well understood to do a reasonably good ultrasound, and not to miss or not to overdiagnose or certain situations. So this is described in detail both for grayscale and color on these lectures on sonoshare.in. So then is the correct technique, and so when you come to the various aspects, the guidelines, technique, protocols, normal anatomy, and the checklist for various sections, and the pathology. So these are the headings under which each area has to be approached, and all these are described in various lectures, and all these aspects are regarding each area, like foundation, the abdomen, the GI tract, urinary tract, small parts, and fetal medicine, fetal echo, fetal abdomen. All these topics or categories are dealt with in the differing headings very well on sonoshare.in. After all this, then we come to a situation where with all this, after all this, you get an image which does not conform to any of the known conditions you have learnt. So in that case, then you have to know how to approach such a situation. So such case scenarios are dealt with in a separate category of image to diagnosis with respect to general ultrasound and fetal medicine on this site of sonoshare.in. After all this, then finally we come to counseling the patient. So before the scan, regarding the potential benefits and limitations of the procedure has to be counseled, and in case you are not able to and also explain that it may be technically difficult when there is maternal obesity, etc. And those everything has to be counseled in detail, and it is difficult to talk to the patient in detail. So what can be done is a detailed document can be prepared and printed, and you can take ask the patient to read and get the patient's signature as an evidence for an adequate counseling of the patient before the procedure. And next important thing is documentation of an image. So this is very crucial. Recently, whenever I was consulted regarding litigation regarding sonography, which I have been seeing that there is marked increase in the number of cases. So documentation, there was not the people not documented the images adequately to defend the point against the litigant. So documentation is very important. How? Because it helps to not to miss doing a particular section. So it makes the chance of missing as a less possibility when you start documenting each and every section diligently, and you have a proof that you have done that particular section in case of a litigation which arises later. So documentation is very crucial. And if you are, for particular reason, if you are not following the guidelines, or you are not able to completely follow the guidelines, you mention that in your report, and also refer or suggest rescan at a higher center. This is also implied in the guidelines. So this also has to be done to prevent defend yourself in case of a litigation. And as I said, sometimes the guidelines may be inadequate. There is a situation called res ipsa loquitur. And what is the first case I told, in spite of all the points the doctor has put forth in defense, finally the forum chose to give a verdict that is liable for negligence based on the principle of res ipsa loquitur. So what is this principle of legal principle of res ipsa loquitur is covered in detail in a lecture on sonoshare.in. So finally, after the scan, it's better that you counsel about the report to the patient or the couple, and regarding the report you can counsel. And last thing is, you have to keep yourselves updated regarding the recent advances in your field or where you are doing the scan. For that, the audio video book facility is available on sonoshare.in. Now this facility is, the textbooks are there, but they don't cover the most recent things, and the textbook is not handy. And when you go to a conference, you will hear, but you may not retain, and you cannot be able to revisit the lecture, which is possible with this online audio video book. And this category covers all the lecture videos available on sonoshare.in. So it will be a ready reference which is available anytime, anywhere, any number of times, and it can be available on your mobile device also. Thank you for your patient listening.